Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Broken Theory. Musicians Paradise. How you doing?
Yes, I'm great. I'm fine.
I appreciate you taking some time, to sit and talk with us about your journey and how you first got started with music. You're great at the piano. How did that journey start with you?
Actually, I'm not a piano player at all. I'm a guitar
Wow.
player.
Wow.
So
That's
it's
amazing.
strange because, I'm most famous for my keyboard playing, but I'm not a keyboard player at all.
It's funny how the universe works, man. You get started with one thing and that may not necessarily be the thing that you like, but it just takes off because you're naturally
It's
just good at it.
crazy.
You're trained
It's
a
really
certain way.
crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess let's just talk about music in general and talk about how you first got started with music and what that journey was like transitioning from the guitar to the piano.
Well, my parents they are classically trained musicians,
Mm-hmm.
so I was growing up in musical family, but I didn't like classical music at all.
Okay,
For
okay.
me, it was something like really boring because I knew every classical symphony by heart by age of
Yeah.
5 years old because I just heard it all on those endless rehearsals and stuff like students playing in my parents' house all the
Uh-huh.
time. So it was like boring shit for me,
Yeah, no, I
honestly.
completely understand. So, did you grow up classically trained in the piano, or like how did that start with you?
I had some really beginner music lessons, but music when I was at the young age really was not too interesting to me
Mm-hmm.
because there is just was so much music all the time around our household. So it was like if you grow up in a house built of gold,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to give a value to this kind of material.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I completely understand. So, was it something that like growing up, you weren't really amused with it, but later on you kind of learned to appreciate a little bit more and tap back into it?
Oh yes. It's very common path for many musicians
Mm-hmm.
because, of course, when I heard about rock music and later on pop music and hip hop, this is the stuff what clicked in my
That's the
head.
stuff you were looking for. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because it was music, but it was not my parents' music.
Absolutely. One thing that I will say, and I just want to give you your flowers, on wax, man. Like you definitely cross genres very well, and just like show many different examples of all different types of music to where even if someone wasn't necessarily interested in that genre per se, they will still get a glimpse of like, oh, I didn't even know I was interested in that because
Oh
like that
wow.
you expose them to it. I see you do all different types of things like anywhere from Radiohead to Tyler the Creator, things like that. Talk about how you even go through that process, of finding what you're gonna show for an example.
Oh, I really glad you noticed that actually, because not so many people I think appreciate the variety of material I can introduce.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's interesting thing. Just a moment.
Yeah, no
Okay.
worries.
That's interesting thing because I always was interested in very different kind of music.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kinds of music. What's really interested to me, especially jazz. I learned a lot of jazz tunes,
Mm-hmm.
but that's interesting. When I started on social media, I started from my original like little tunes, little experiments, and chord progressions,
Mm-hmm.
and my channels it was fairly small affair, and uh, after a while, people start asking me about certain songs. Can you do such and such and such and such song?
Hmm.
And actually, I learned a lot of music from my social media community requests.
That's
And I'm
amazing.
so grateful for this kind of learning.
Yeah.
It was amazing, I have to tell you. Without the community, I'm nothing.
Yeah, no,
I'm
for
learning
sure.
community.
Even with
I
this
had to start
interviewing,
something.
yep, absolutely.
Yes,
Even with
to
this show and interviewing, and even the open mics that we used to do, the virtual ones, man, having community is super important. Just having people around you
absolutely,
that you trust musically, and not necessarily like it doesn't have to be a relationship to where it's transactional, but just like in your case, to where you're leading and showing people how to do certain things. The people that are actually learning from you are able to actually show you things, and now it's like one hand washes the other, both hands wash your face. It's amazing.
absolutely.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
amazing, and it's always about feedback. And I
Hmm.
feel like I'm really grateful for everyone who bringing some suggestions about music and chord progressions what I can
Absolutely.
explore.
Yeah, I seen.
Unfortunately, I can't fulfill every request
Of
because
course.
there are just too many. But I'm trying hard to do as much as I can.
No, you're human at the end of the day, so it's like, you know,
Yeah,
a request is exactly what it is, a request. You know what I mean? It's not guaranteed. So, definitely take time with yourself and be gentle in that aspect and just give grace with that, because you are human. You can't do everybody's thing. But you sure as hell make variety. I noticed that a lot of the stuff that you've been doing as of lately, you have been doing, I want to say it's like kind of like a la carte, like you've just been like dark chords and just giving it its own name and just like kind of giving its own flavor. That series, man, talk about that. How did you come up with that?
oh, thank you for asking because I've been working a long time on my original material and I came up with some interesting chord progressions which I can describe as something like dark
Mm-hmm.
chords. Of course, it's new soul kind of
Yeah.
style things, but it's I would like to call it dark because it sounds like dark, and
Yeah.
I have a lot of requests about darker side of music,
Yeah.
and after my research, I actually think it's kind of difficult to define what make music sound dark in harmonic like
Yeah.
department because even if you take like simplest chords like C, E, G, is like
Uh-huh.
C major chord. If you're
Yeah.
playing it on piano like in the lower register, it's going to sound really dark.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
So
I
there
hear
is
what you're
no
saying.
straightforward recipes.
From your research, what did you come up with as far as like the music that you were finding that people were suggesting to you that was quote unquote dark?
Of course, it's from hip hop side is Griselda.
Oh, okay. I was just about to say
And
that's
those beats are
prime
dark,
example. Yeah.
really
Alchemist,
dark.
Alchemist, a lot of
Alchemist,
people.
of course, of
Yeah.
course.
But a lot
And
of the chords that you've been doing have been kind of in that realm to where it's actually showing people. Me, I have no music theory. I'm self-taught with everything. You know what I mean? My story, just like yours, like I was interested in music in when I was 10 years old, and then I gave it a break and then didn't get serious, with it until I was like homeless in 2017 and turned my storage unit into a studio, and just from there on out just developed a love for music. Learn how to engineer, learn how to do my own videography, things like that. And from there, man, like you're seeing your content, man, it just helps me kind of put two and two together and just be like, okay, so I don't know what certain things are called, but if I can see how like, how to play them and things like that, it kind of helps me transition into other things. And just be creative, because if I see how one sounds, it just helps me experiment and try new things, man. So definitely, if any producers are watching out there that aren't aware of your channel, tell them how they can find you on YouTube.
It's musician paradise. Just two words.
Yep, absolutely.
Little bit strange word combination, but here it is. And
Absolutely.
on Instagram, it's Paradise Musician. I think Paradise underscore musician.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll definitely get the links and everything like that in the
Oh,
description.
thank you. Thank
So
you.
let's talk back about the music journey. And you said you were a guitar player. How did you
Yeah.
fall in love with the guitar, and what was it like transitioning to the piano?
Oh, when I was like teenager, guitar it seemed like it's kind of so easy instrument to pick up and start playing something. So that was the trick for
Yeah.
me. I didn't want nothing like too complex, like something with so many keys or just what I can pick up and hit hard.
So you had no
That wasn't
formal
about it.
training with that.
I didn't had I had to be honest in growing up in classical musician
Hmm.
like family. I had some basic, really basic ear training, and I mean by ear training is just I was okay-ish like to do something like detecting musical intervals by ear, like it's a
Okay.
major third or perfect fifth, but nothing really special. I was
Yeah.
really not really good.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So going to playing the guitar, and you were just kind of like feeling it out. What were some of the things that helped you kind of start playing maybe your favorite songs, or just getting more familiar with the guitar by yourself?
Well, I was trying to find the chords from the songs. What at the time, well, they were like stuff that interested me the most,
Hmm.
and I quite quickly find my way around the guitar. But it was not really precise transcribing, nothing like I'm doing now. It was more or less okay. It seems like I can play the song, not exactly like the artist playing, but something like in
So you
the
were just
style.
trying to keep up with what you were hearing, just trying to match the tune, is what you're saying?
Oh, yes, and it wasn't very precise because at the time, all my friends we were concerned with original material and not too much of playing cover songs. So it was more about composing. These limited resources what we had,
Yeah, absolutely. Back in the days, there was no
doing
YouTube,
something.
so it's like you kind of had to experiment with what was already existing to try to find your own way and navigate, and to some new territory. Honestly.
Yeah, yeah, and it was little by little. But even back when, I was quite interested in complex harmonies. I was trying to find like weirdest combinations of strings and fingers on my guitar to
Okay,
find
okay.
like really dope chords to
Yeah, yeah. Nah,
impress
that's
my
dope.
friends.
Nah, I mean that's dope though. Just to be able to pull up to the session and just be like, "Hey guys, have you heard this?" You know what I mean? And just like
Yeah, exactly.
make everybody
This
go
is the
crazy to where they're like, "What? Where did you find
that's
that?"
the vibe
Exactly.
I was going for.
So what were some of them tools or techniques you would say that helped you kind of match the sounds from the guitar to what you were hearing?
Oh, this is a really good question because I think my answer can help any musician with any instrument. Like the simplest exercise, like every guitar player basically ignoring, is to sing, at least try to sing the notes of the chords you are playing,
Mm,
because many beginners on guitar or piano or any instrument what can play chord by playing chords because they know the fingerings, and guitar is very dangerous instrument in this regard because in half an hour you can learn like 10 chords what you can easily play on the guitar neck,
mm-hmm.
but actually even if you know how to play those chords, very often you don't have a clue about the actual sound. So I was teaching myself to recognize all the notes inside those chords, because for most people who are not like musicians in a pro sense of this word,
Mm,
chord is just some sort of cloud. Okay, we have some sort of major cloud, some sort of minor cloud, or
mm-hmm,
whatever, or weird cloud. But I wanted to hear every single detail inside of that cloud. So
mm-hmm,
I started to sing, not by, I'm not a singer, but I started to sing note by note every sound of every string on the
mm.
guitar. And this exercise can take you really far in your musical journey,
Yeah, no,
because
I definitely believe
basically
you.
doing ear training, but in informal way.
Hmm. So you're saying that technique will basically get you aware of where your fingers are and the sounds that it makes, so you can
Yes,
start trying to piece
yes.
together what you're hearing without thinking about it. Pretty much.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. You
Okay.
described it in a perfect way, and it's, to me, it's very one of most powerful exercises.
Yeah, I mean, I have a guitar, and I'm gonna be honest, man. It's quite intimidating, to pick it up, and even the keyboard is something I struggle with as well. But your tutorials and the way that you break things down, and of course, it's something familiar. Usually, I'm aware of what you're already breaking down as far as like the song existing, but seeing it broken down, like, okay, this is how you make that chord, and it's really entertaining, man, just to even see that part. You kind of make it digestible, to not be
Yeah,
so
I think so.
overwhelmed with knowing everything.
Yes, I after getting some feedback from my social media channels, I have the idea now that harmony and that those chord progressions, it's a big mystery for most people,
Mm-hmm.
because when they hearing the song they already know quite well, and suddenly they can see as it was played actually.
Yeah.
It's quite fascinating process for many people, I
Yeah, because
believe.
I'm a visual learner, so just seeing that, it helps me, kind of like imagine, like you said, like learning everything. Like, it hasn't came to that point to where I've had the time to like just sit there and fool around with the piano and stuff. But I feel like I'm kind of close to where I'm gonna just dive in and just start, learning. But your tutorials have definitely helped me in what I'm going through, trying to
Oh, thank you,
recreate
thank you. I'm really
samples
glad
and stuff
to hear
like
that.
that, man. Definitely kudos to you for starting that.
Thank you.
I want to talk to you about your journey as far as being a traditional artist and then navigating social media. What would you say is your biggest platform, or that you get the most response from your tutorial videos?
When I started social media, I started from YouTube,
Okay.
and I was doing some sort of videos about synthesizers and
Okay.
drum machines, because I love all that hardware
Oh yeah.
stuff,
Oh yeah.
as many people do. Um, and it was really entertaining for me doing those videos.
Oh yeah.
But later on, I was teaching in local music college, and sometimes in teaching environment, student can miss a class, and I'm just alone in the music room with the piano, and I started recording some chord progressions just for fun and
Mm.
publishing those on my Instagram page, which was like 0 followers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but after a while, Instagram turned out to be the biggest platform for me as it right now. I have like
Wow.
close to 200,000 followers on
Wow.
Instagram page,
Wow. Yeah,
and
no,
only
that's
50
amazing.
on YouTube.
So what was
So
it
I
like navigating
provide.
the space and just learning certain things? Because, being a musician is hard enough as it is. What were some of the things that you had to pretty much pick up on navigating the social media realm?
Well, this is once again. one of one of those really big questions,
Hmm.
because even when I first started on my YouTube channel, from very first video I uploaded, I immediately understood, okay, if I want to improve myself as a musician, as an artist, I have to do that. I have to do YouTube videos, because I felt like, oh wow, I did this and it's so bad. I was thinking about myself, but I'm much better as a musician, as whatever. But YouTube is like a really honest mirror, when you can see all your flaws and all your insecurities and so on. So just from the first video, it's hooked me, because I didn't I wasn't thinking about like followers or gaining some traction on social media or
Hmm.
making money out of this. No, I just the first and most important to this day idea of social media for me, this is the thing what make you learn in a fastest way,
Yeah.
and it's going to make you much better person, much better professional, whatever your profession is, much better everything,
Hmm.
because it's very honest mirror.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's what the journey is about, putting things out into the world and just letting the universe respond however it's going to respond, whether they hate it or love it. You know, everything
Yeah,
has its
yeah.
own avenue. You could necessarily put Erica Badu tutorial out and it not do as good as a Tyler the Creator one, and it's like around the same type of chords, all just because
Yes,
you worded it a
absolutely.
certain way. So, just like learning as you go and like seeing what the universe responds to helps you as an
Like,
artist because, at the same time, you're still being you and still doing what you like to do, but you're also keeping in mind what the people that are watching are paying attention to. Yeah, that's major.
yes, and in the beginning it's this very lonely thing, because you not going to get like not many comments even,
Mm-hmm.
but there is no choice,
Yeah, no, for real. What are
because you
what are
have to
some of the ways that you
walk.
push through that lonely patch, and how long would you say that it was for you when you were creating this channel?
Okay, let's say first year of YouTube, when I was trying to do at least one monthly video. After 1 year, I got like 64 subscribers.
Okay, okay. What year was this?
It was 2020. It was like I started in that COVID
Okay.
19 time, because it was the time when everybody got some free time on hands,
Yep.
because for musicians many jobs just disappear, and I
Yep.
thought it's excellent time to start, finally to start a YouTube channel. And very interesting thing, right before everything was shut down, like week before COVID happening,
Mm-hmm.
was happening, I bought like little nice Sony camera, thinking I'm going to start YouTube. And if I waited a little longer, probably I not was like in the position to buy this camera,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
money was short in
Oh
the
yeah,
COVID time. But
definitely.
I
You didn't know if you were
got
gonna
it
get that
right
money back.
before everything was shut down, and I was
Hmm.
with free time on my hands and a little camera.
It's so funny. Yeah, man. It's
It
funny
is
how life
kind of,
works, man. And
yes,
the pandemic for a lot of musicians were a blessing in disguise because they got to sit with themselves and actually feel what they actually wanted to do, you know? because
Yeah,
it no longer became about a check because there were no jobs coming in. So it's like, what are you gonna
absolutely.
do to, pass the time? What are you gonna do to make yourself better? Are you gonna Netflix, or are you gonna sit here and keep growing? So let's just go back to the story as far as you being on the guitar. You got some experience with the guitar. You started feeling it out, playing your favorite songs. At what point did you transition to the piano?
This was a long way because guitar gigs led me into some studio work, and I
Hmm.
started to work in different studios as kind of sort of guy who does arrangements and little producing because I didn't had a lot of experience with sound
Hmm.
engineering part of
Yeah.
things. Later on, I jumped on it as well. So I started producing, and this naturally was leading me to some keyboard necessity
Okay.
duties. So to record some bass line or synth part or just a couple of chords. And at first I didn't enjoy keyboard at all. It was very like unfamiliar territory, and I was doing a lot of mistakes, and every little thing what I had to record took ages
No, I get it.
and
I get
hours
it.
sometimes, but I needed to do it because I had to deliver that job.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
later on in life, I found myself in sort of like limbo.
Mm.
I was producing, but artists were not any good.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, something is missing. Probably something is missing in my music education.
Hmm.
And at the time, um, my parents moved to Portugal, to Madeira Island, and I moved this band. And it's very strange kind of story because on Madeira Island at the time, we had a sort of music college, very little music college, but that college was sponsored by Portuguese government, and
Mm.
it's literally cost like nothing to study there. And just out of curiosity, I went there to see what's people doing in that jazz college.
Hmm.
And to my amazement, the teachers were exceptionally good. Like my mind was blowing because on such small island, I didn't expect it to see such high level of musicality
Mm.
and proficiency on any musical instrument. Those teachers could play like any instrument. Same teacher played guitar, piano, and double bass and saxophone, whatever. Like wow.
Yeah. No, that's
What
amazing.
what's going on there? I
So,
didn't know at the time those guys was actually not local people. They
okay.
were teachers from Lisbon, from
Mm.
Portuguese capital, and they just were like freshmen from Berkeley, from Manhattan School of Music,
Okay. Okay.
all that famous American schools. So they're like highly trained in that
Yeah.
department.
So
And I
like they
thought,
came there
yeah,
specifically for that. Yeah.
yeah. And I
Exactly.
thought, wow, for real, I can study those kind of people like for paying almost nothing. I think it was like 25 euros per month.
That's crazy. Yeah,
It's
that's
crazy. It
crazy.
was crazy. Now is I think there is no possibilities to study. So I started to learn like I wasn't particularly interested in jazz as like traditional jazz,
Hmm.
bebop and stuff. But of course, I start learning a little. It's really turns out like very obvious to me. Oh,
Mm.
this is the place all that hip hop brutal harmonies are coming from.
Hmm.
It's coming from jazz.
Yeah.
And in jazz education is very like common thing. If you're playing guitar, you must have at least some basic piano lessons. And piano
Mm.
teacher, local piano teacher, like showed me a couple of moves and exercises what every jazz student had to pass through, and it was really the stuff what you can hear in Tyler, the creator tracks,
Hmm.
like 251s.
Yeah,
Those chord progressions, like really sounds
man.
it sounds actually like Tyler. So
Yeah, nah, for
I
sure.
love those
I mean, he's
exercises.
one of the ones that like really paid attention to the music a lot, man. You know,
Yeah,
like he studied the game, and like I say it because you may hear
absolutely.
Tyler, but like somebody else may hear Roy Ayers, somebody else may hear
Yeah,
Erica Badu chords, you know what I mean? Like he just like is a student of the game to where it's like it's so many layers on top of that to where it's like it's universal, pretty much, man.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it
And
could.
I'm convinced Tyler had at least some sort of access to jazz people
Mm,
because I just recognized the same exercises as I was taught as a student,
hmm.
you know? And it was like really revealing.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like his sound and the way it evolved, I feel like at first, of course, he didn't have any type of training, but as he got deeper into music and it started taking off, he started taking it more serious and like sitting down
Absolutely.
and trying to actually learn how to do the things that he wanted to do, and just like understanding the ones that came before him and how they did it as well, because it's all the same shit. There's nothing new under the sun. You know what I mean? So if you learn how, you know, I'm just gonna use Roy Ayers again as an example. If you learn how his stuff sounds and how he created it, and Tyler samples him, then you kind of got the cheat code of the sound pretty
Yes,
much. You
absolutely.
know what I mean? So,
Rise opens the book for every modern producer, actually.
yep,
Like you
yep,
can hear the Neptunes in there, you can
yep,
hear Tyler, the creator,
absolutely.
like everything.
Little bits and pieces. It may not be everything,
Yes.
but
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Different people take different elements. And that's the beautiful thing about music. Even when you're trying to be Michael Jackson, you'll never be Michael Jackson. You can make something that sounds reminiscent of him. You can make something that
Yes, but
sounds
never.
like, you know,
Absolutely.
around the ballpark. It sounds good. It appeals to the audience, but it's not him. So like by doing that, it takes on its own persona, and like let's just say the 251 again, Roy Ayers and Tyler using the same exact chords and stuff like that. It's kind of the same thing. It's all on reference. One person, a younger person may say Tyler, the other person may say Roy when they first hear it.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's like something
exactly.
completely different.
Exactly.
Um, what part of your classical training do you find yourself breaking the rules the most on your producing journey?
Okay, the most important difference between the jazz school and the classical training for me was the actually approach to teaching,
Mm,
because classical training, at least classical training, what I was experienced as a young person, it
mm,
was a lot about repetition. You have to play it again and again,
mm-hmm.
and same kind of thing again and again. And in jazz education, it's much more flexible. You're not forced to play same thing over and over again. You have a choice what you want to study, how you want to study,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, big part of jazz music training is about ear training,
Yeah.
and really important stuff because you learning by transcribing uh, people, like you just learning from greats trying to transcribe
Yeah.
not
What you're
not what
hearing.
they do. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're not relying on written music
Yeah.
as in classical.
No, for sure.
Right.
What would you
Yeah.
say are some of the biggest things that jazz training kind of open your eyes to as a musician?
Um, like it's everything, but more specifically is rhythm and harmony
Okay.
and how to work together.
Okay.
Yes, and it's really extensive study. Like there is no blind spots.
For
I
sure.
think just the most advanced in both departments, like rhythmic structures and of course harmony. And I put rhythm first because rhythm is just the most important thing in music.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know the greats like Quincy Jones. He can just write out something without hearing it and stuff. That's amazing when you can just write stuff out in your head. You don't even have to have a DAW. You could just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
write
exactly.
it down. That's
It's
amazing.
all about ear power.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Where would you start in today's world if you had to start over in just training yourself how to play the piano? What would be your first starting?
Oh, well, it's kind of difficult to imagine for me because starting also mean not knowing. Now I know things, and it's easier to to say,
Yeah,
"Oh, okay, you have to
absolutely.
do okay, such and such." But for most people, my advice would be the simplest thing what make really big difference in learning music. It's what in music education called pitch matching. And pitch matching is really simple exercise. You just play any note on your keyboard, guitar, or any our instrument, and you have to find that note you just played is your voice. That's about it. So you have to learn how to sing the note you are hearing, and you don't have to be professional singer or anything. In music education, we have special voice for it, just normal human voice. Just find a note you are playing. Maybe not going to be beautiful singing. It's not going to be the same octave. It's maybe higher or lower. It depends on your vocal range. But you have to find the pitch
Yeah,
by singing quietly
absolutely.
because everything what comes after is built on that little skill.
Like being
Just
able to hear it.
and for some people, even this seemingly simple exercise is actually not simple because some people struggling to find the note they are playing on the instrument is their singing voice,
Yeah.
and it's fine, it's okay, it's not a problem, it's solvable. But this is the first thing to fix. If someone who is playing note can't sing the same note he's playing, this is the first thing to fix.
Because then you'll hear it off. You won't hear it correctly when you're trying to create. So
Yes,
everything would be
you know,
thrown off.
yeah, it might be the case, but also there is maybe a person can actually hear quite fine the note the person is playing, and maybe it's just vocal cords control which is not developed enough to produce the note. But unfortunately, for us, the only way to know if I can imagine sound is to see the sound.
Yeah.
This is the
Just
only
just to
way we
put it
can
to the test.
confirm if our knowledge here is inside is correct.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Unfortunately, there is
And
no
then and
easy
then you can
or
go from there. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm seeing what you're talking about. Uh, talk about where you first realized that you had a love for teaching.
Oh, I kind of. It's an easy question to answer because my parents were music teachers. So I was in the teaching business even
Okay.
before I realized it. So I knew by heart many tricks and many systems in place to implement when I want to teach someone to do something. And the most natural way to teach, of course, it was when I was in rock bands because I had to
Uh-huh.
explain the ideas I had to my peers in the band.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the difference between playing on stage and, like what you're doing right now, teaching? Like how has it been adjusting to that?
It's a huge difference. I think the mindset and skill set for playing live, especially playing live, and making those YouTube, Instagram
Hmm.
videos or teaching is really a different mindset because playing live as a musician in a jazz or pop or rock environment, it's kind of very demanding activity. You must practice a lot. You must be always aware of the situation. You must. It's For me. Example is very simple. Playing live for high level musicians is like for driver driving like Formula One car.
Hmm. They just got to get in and
Oh,
go, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But they're
Things
so
are
trained
happens at
for it.
blistering speed and you have to be on top of everything.
Yep. Yeah. You have to be conditioned and every day just
Yeah.
ready for it. Um, as far as like things as content creators, is there anything that content creators can learn from musicians and things that musicians can learn from content creators?
Okay, for me, actually, I think content creator musician can learn a lot about music by creating the content.
Mm,
Because the most important thing we can learn by creating content is how actually your music work on your audience,
mm,
how your audience responds. Because when you're playing live, there is some false feedback
mm.
always in place. Because when you are on stage and lights are blinking and sound is loud, and you can get really emotional with all these feelings, and you
Oh
can
yeah.
feel okay, gig is going really
Yep.
great. I'm playing like crazy stuff, and people respond. But when you actually afterwards you will listen that recording the very same day,
Yeah.
you will think, oh shit, how could I play so bad? What I was thinking, oh my god, oh it's horrible, oh I never do it again like
Yeah,
this.
absolutely. No, I,
you
I, I
know
definitely, I
on
definitely hear
social
you.
media this effect is like absolutely at zero because you recorded the stuff and you can clearly see, okay, this is clearly doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or you recorded the stuff and you think it's okay, but your audience just doesn't react, doesn't respond, nothing, zero.
What are some of your biggest indicators or things that you have used as a guide to kind of let you know it's either a hit or miss? Is it like the comments? Is it likes, views? Like what is it for you that kind of helped you guide yourself in the right direction for your channel?
I I really like to make a really contrasting comparison between at least two factors. First
Mm,
factor is, do I enjoying it? Did I enjoy the making the thing? And do I satisfy the results?
mm,
And for me, it's one of the most important prerequisites. Okay, I did that. I like the process. I like the results. I don't care if people will enjoy it or not.
mm-hmm,
But second part, contrasting part is, okay, no matter what I did already.
mm-hmm.
Now let's see how it actually performs as a piece of content.
Mm. So what are some of the
And sometimes,
factors? Yeah.
yes, and factors is usually very simple. like if I will reduce it to the simplest single factor, is literally how much money did on YouTube.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
1 cent or 2 cents,
Hmm.
because those shorts doesn't do much
Yeah.
monetarily.
Nah, for
But
sure.
that money, it's condensed knowledge about views, likes, engagement, and so on. The simplest factor. It's of
Hmm.
course it's not about money because who's going to make money from short
Yeah.
from
I mean, it's all
like
extra at that point. You've already built
yes,
a
but it's
foundation.
really important indicator which is encompass all the important metric in one single representative value.
Hmm. No, I completely
Just that.
understand. You've done a great job at creating community within your space and using your Patreon and things like that. What was the process like? How did you get started with that? And how did it get to be where it is right now?
Oh, this was most unexpected and crazy journeys I had experienced in my life.
Hmm.
To tell you honestly, because when I started my YouTube channel, and as you know, I spent whole year trying to get to 100 followers,
Yeah.
subscribers, and it was extremely difficult. And I thought, okay, this is not about money at all. I'm not going to make money out of this activity
Yeah.
any anywhere near, like probably in 20 or 30 years, probably will make 100
Yeah. No,
bucks out of whole
it just
thing.
seemed like an
But
endless journey, right?
yeah. But actually, money came much quicker when I was thinking, and of course, it's because amazing community. And I want to shout out one person who helped me a lot in this business. Is Ave McCree, DJ Ave McCree,
Oh,
and
he's a dope person.
his YouTube channel dedicated to NPC and music
Oh
production.
yeah.
He was one of the first who noticed my small microscopic channel on YouTube, and he did not one but few videos about my humble channel. And of course, after his shout outs, my channel took off.
Yeah. No, I mean that's one of the things that to where it's destined to take off regardless because of how good you are at it. But like somebody like him at his caliber, having a strong uh relationship, I guess you could say, with the beat making community, that can catapult you into a completely different success because it's a potent community of people that need exactly what you're doing. So it's a
Yes,
win-win, you know what
and
I
I'm
mean?
I'm so grateful to him.
Absolutely.
All life,
Absolutely, man.
absolutely. And
So
after, yeah,
no, go ahead, go ahead.
yes, and after he helped me, and I did some work for his online store, and it was natural step to take it to Patreon community. And I waited. I think I waited too long actually to start my Patreon because
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, I'm not ready for it. I have to
That's
produce
exactly
more.
where I'm at right now. I started the online community, but it was in a different way. I was doing virtual open mic events, and it just became too much. A lot of people had access to me, and I was just balancing a lot of things. People had expectations they don't communicate, and everybody wants to work for free, and it was just a lot on me. So I realized that I need to do some type of either Patreon subscription based, something like that. But again, everything is done by just me, so I'm just kind of in a place to where I'm kind of nervous. But just hearing you say that, man, it gives me a little confidence to know that I'm headed on the right path, and the sooner I do it, the better
Absolutely.
everything will come out. But when you were first starting, what would you say is something that kind of opened your eyes to it developing into what it is now? And what are some of the things that you guys do on that community?
Well, I'm sharing all my transcriptions on my Patreon, and I'm producing chord preset packs based on things I learned during my jazz studies and during my transcription times. Because okay, I still transcribing music daily, and
Mm.
it's activity I enjoy the most. And of course, by transcribing, I'm learning a lot of stuff which just by sheer amount of stuff can't be taught in any school,
Yeah, no,
classical
absolutely.
jazz, because those chord progressions which coming out of, once again, out of amazing community requests
Mhm.
are mind blowing, and some of those chord progressions just defy any music theory rules
Yep. See, that's the beautiful
in jazz
thing
or
about like
classical.
just experimenting, when especially
Yep.
you're trained by your ear, you know what you're going for, and it's like, nah, I don't like that part of the chord progression, so I'm not going to include it. You know what I mean? And you
Yeah,
just start
exactly.
experimenting, like what will happen if I raise it an octave? What will happen if I raise it two octaves? You know what I mean? And then it just becomes
Yeah,
something
exactly.
completely different. um, talk
But
about your,
after,
go ahead.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
Go
go
on, go
ahead.
on.
Go ahead.
Oh, just a little thing. After a lot of transcribing, some frameworks emerged which are dictate how you can build interesting chord progressions, and those frameworks was not obvious for me when I was actually
Yeah.
study music.
How
There
often
is
would you
nothing
say?
better than real music.
Yeah. No, I feel it. How often would you say that you upload a new chord pack for Ripcord?
Okay, I'm consistently uploading fresh new chord packs every month on day 20 of every month on my Patreon page.
Wow.
And consistency is the hardest part of making community. And most important part to making community work, because
Absolutely.
without consistency people lose interests to what you are offering.
Exactly. So you have to make sure that every product, like everyone, is the best one that you've ever done. You know what I mean? And just
Yes,
just to
exactly.
keep the
It's very
attention.
demanding.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. When you're doing these, is this something that becomes, how can you say, like you get burnt out of, or is it something that you like just? I know you say you transcribe music daily, but is it something that you ever feel like I don't want to do it, or like it gets daunting?
Some parts of that monthly routine is actually quite hard to deal with,
Like
because
what?
they okay, I love transcribing, but managing all the files and also all that social media, like uploading stuff and
Mhm.
captions and tags, it's really it's
It's a
really
whole
hard
job in
when doing
itself.
every day.
Yeah, yeah. You have to. You have
But
to.
for now, consistency is the king, because you have to
Hmm.
consistent on like Patreon or the like, and you have to be consistent on social media,
Hmm.
because this is what will push forward your stuff.
Absolutely.
Consistency
So
and
you off.
consistency.
Uh huh. Go ahead.
Yeah, and consistency. Every time I'm getting more into the systems, so I have to build a system which
Hmm.
allows me to do it consistently without burning myself
Yeah,
to ashes.
that's the biggest
Because
thing.
it's
Yep.
a real possibility.
Hmm.
Sometimes I feel like I can't do it anymore. I completely
No,
burned
for
out.
sure. When you put yourself in a position to where you neglect your work and you don't do it consistently how you used to, it catches up
Yeah,
to you, and then you quickly realize, like, damn, that's the reason why the system was in play. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
definitely understand, man, because just having to come up with things like on the spot. Oh, I got to drop a pack by tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like that could definitely stress you out and make you not want to do it. But
absolutely. No,
yeah, no,
I'm planning everything in advance, because if
yep.
not, I'll be burned out
Exactly.
really quickly.
I completely understand. So you drop chord packs every month. Are there any other things that you do special with your Patreon?
Yes, I also publishing on Patreon my chord diagrams, which I build from my daily video uploads. So
Okay.
for anyone who want to learn chord progressions and without trying to stop the video on the Instagram, you can access all those files nicely structured on my Patreon at the lowest tier of 350
Oh
monthly.
wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. So talk about those tiers for me. I just want to make sure that everybody listening is aware of what it is that you have built and the things that you do offer for musicians or just anybody that's trying to learn in general. So you have a $3 tier, and what are the
Yes,
other
three
tiers that
fifty
you have?
dollar tier, and people getting access to my free chord progressions, which are now in 5 or 6 different formats. So we have Ripchord chord progressions, new Ableton Live expressive chord device. I recently converted
Mm-hmm.
every chord pack I ever did into this Ableton Live expressive chord format because it's quite an amazing Max for Live device. Of course, scalar, of course, Xfer Cthulhu,
Mm-hmm.
and what else? Yes, and MIDI, of course, and MIDI.
Yeah.
And my free packs actually available to anyone, to any free Patreon member. You don't have to pay anything, and there is at least 5 or 6 chord progressions that you can explore
Mm-hmm.
absolutely free of any paywall.
So what's the
And
difference with the free packs and the ones that you include for every month, if you don't mind me asking?
yeah, and the second tier it's $9 per month, includes full chord preset packs, which are much bigger. It's like 40 chord progressions, at least 40 chord progressions every month
Wow.
in 2 different styles. Usually, I do two
Wow.
packs every month.
Wow.
And of course, all the usual formats, plus the highest tier have access to my MIDI library because chord presses is just presses. You can play on the keyboard or MPC pads with one finger, different kind of chords.
Mm-hmm.
But also I have the MIDI transcriptions from the songs in my MIDI vault. I call it
Mm.
MIDI vault, so you
No, that's
can learn
amazing.
actual songs by analyzing the MIDI.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's amazing.
And I slowly developed new products like my new series, which is about sound design and decent sampler instruments. I I just started it last year, and probably I will do more.
That's amazing. Yeah, and if you need any help along the journey, like you need somebody to help you with editing or any
Oh
daunting
wow!
task, man,
Thank you.
I'm more than willing to help the vision, man, because
Oh, thank you.
I'm all about helping people push things forward, man, and
Oh,
I love what you're doing with the
fantastic!
community,
Great.
and if I can help, I'll gladly help. Um, let's talk about how you became obsessed with chord progressions. What what happened to where it just like out of nowhere you just started going crazy with those?
As you know, I'm not a pro piano player,
Mm-hmm.
so probably I will not impress really good jazz piano players by
Mm-hmm.
playing brilliant solos as Corey Henry or I don't know who else. And quite naturally, because of my technical limitations on the instrument, I
Mm-hmm.
tend to play the chords because actually many people think you need to be accomplished like classically trained piano player to play chord progressions.
Yeah.
Not. because the technique actually is quite accessible to any kind of person who is willing to produce music. I think
Hmm.
any music producer can learn play chord progressions such as I'm publishing on my social media channels. Technically is not that difficult. Of course, there is different kind of people and some will have always more technical difficulties and
Hmm.
some people are more like able to play complex stuff, but in general is not actually technically demanding
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I completely agree with you. Um, can you debunk any of the music theory myths that you may know
Oh
of,
yes,
and
oh
things
yes,
that, like,
very
people get misconceptions on in music theory? Like,
yes,
go ahead, dive deep on that.
absolutely. And I want to debunk one really, really hard one because I'm getting comments like all the time, like every day, at least 10 comments like this. Okay, what's the key of these chord progressions? So people asking about the key, and I'm never writing actually key because there is a reason for that. I'm playing maybe three or four simple chords, but from music theory standpoint, those chords are in quite complex relationships.
Hmm.
So often for chords, there is no single key which contains all those four chords.
Hmm. So in
And
the case to where you're, sorry, I don't mean to cut your wisdom, but in the case to where you're working with, let's just say, an abstract piece of chords to where they don't really make sense, what would you do as far as finding a key, or balancing out all of those chords?
really great question because actually the key it's the tool which is serve mostly classical music and some really basic jazz. If you go a little bit deeper into the stuff, into the
Hmm.
modern music, you will understand, oh, okay, if I will stick to one key in my chord progressions, those chord progressions sound kind of the samey and kind of boring most of the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
So, most of interesting artists who work well with harmony will look for a way to escape that key tyranny, and
Mm.
there is few really interesting concepts which allows us to escape the key but preserve the consistency and preserve the quality of chord progressions so it not sound like random chords just
Yeah.
like cat walking on the piano.
Yeah, no, I definitely. I mean, I could relate to both ways, because sometimes, especially when you're self-taught, if you don't know no better, then you don't hear it. But until somebody open your eyes to it, that's when the world just, like, your eyes get big. You start wanting to learn everything that you can. You know what I mean? So definitely shout outs to you. And you probably just woke up a couple people. They're like, "What is the key?"
Yeah, yeah, where is the key? But actually,
Absolutely.
some of those like tricks really simple and can help develop chord progressions what work outside of any key but still sound good. For
For
example,
sure.
we already were talking about Roy Ayers,
Uh-huh.
and he was kind of the pioneer in new soul parallel harmony. And what's parallel harmony? For example, you play any, let's say, C major seventh chord,
Hmm.
and you just transpose this major seventh chord to any place on the keyboard. The
Hmm.
shape is exactly the same major seventh chord, but it will sound really nice and cohesive because the chord quality is the same. So you don't need to think about the key. And
Hmm.
the easiest thing we can do is parallel harmony. Actually, this tip is for producers because you can on the piano roll you can draw any chord you know how to draw on the
Yeah.
piano roll.